Greetings, R. Frederick Riddle here with another Becoming a Published Author is Fun. And if you don't understand that, check out episode 8. This is episode 2532. And today I'm taking a little topic that I talked about in the last episode, show versus tell. And I'm doing a little bit more explaining today about what the value of showing is what I'm really would probably describe it as. And you can see here, I'm talking about the thoughts, the inner self. So you have these a scene in which maybe they're looking out the window, and previous episode I talked about a snowstorm. So, and it was a guy by the name of Mark. Okay, so Mark looks out there. Well, while he is looking out and seeing things, it's very easy for you as the author to put in his thoughts some things which communicate to the reader. So maybe as he's looking out there, he thinks, oh, great, I can go skiing today. So that would be another thing he would have to do and go out and get his skis probably out in the garage or something like that. But his likes, what does he like? What excites him about the snow coming down? Why is it so exciting to him? What is it he likes? In this case, it's skiing. It could be sledding. He could be a young boy, and he likes to go on a sled. It could be they have a nearby ice rink that this means that they're going to be able to probably freeze over and they'll have a nice little ice rink there, something of that nature. And so you communicate that fact through his thought processes, and the reader identifies with it. It may only be a simple sentence within the thought process, but that reader will remember that later on. And you find out the likes. Well, what about fears? There's another thing. He sees the snow coming down, and maybe he's a man and he's got to go to work. So he not only has to put the clothing on, which we discussed in the previous episode, but now he's got to think about, he's got to go out and he's got to warm the car up, scrape off the snow, get the wipers going and everything. And then he's got to drive out there on what could be slippery, icy roads. These could be fears that he could have. On the other hand, it could be a little boy or a little girl who's afraid of the snow. Sometimes kids are afraid of the snow. For that matter, sometimes adults are. But it could be a fear, maybe an unreasoning fear. When I was growing up, my sister and I, home alone with our grandmother. And in that case, it wasn't snow, it was rain. It was really raining out and it was thundering and everything. Well, we didn't know it, but my grandmother was afraid of the rain, of storms. Probably a childhood thing had happened, and it tainted her thinking. Well, she was communicating that to us and not saying you should be fear. This is what happened. It was just her actions, her thoughts, not her thoughts, her expressions, and so forth. That we were getting afraid. Well, my mom came home, and she didn't take her long to figure this out, and she separated us and got us straightened out on it, and then she talked to her mom about it and rebuked her for what she was doing. She was passing on her fears to us. Well, and our mother stepped in. Now that's how I remember it. Sometimes things happen differently than what you remember them as, but that's how I remember it. But whether it's actually happened or not, it does convey what I want it to convey here, which is namely that our fears, when you are letting a reader into the inner self, the thoughts, the inner self of your character, now the reader can identify different things, and the fears is one of those things. And fears are powerful. and it may help explain an action that takes place later on in the story. Another thing here is hopes. We all have hopes. As a Christian, hope doesn't mean I hope for. Hope is an expectation. Our great hope is the return of Jesus Christ. And so that is an expectation. We know he's coming back. We don't have a hope so attitude. We have a expecting attitude. And in the Bible, that's what the word hope means. But in today's world, in today's English, hope means I have a hope so attitude. Or I hope this happens. I hope that don't happen. Oh, I hope that sunshine comes out tomorrow. I hope that ice rink freezes over so I can go ice skating. Oh, I hope that the school is called out and be canceled because of the snowfall. Here's a good one. And so there's different things that we as children or as adults, we hope for. And so again, you can communicate those things to the reader through the thoughts, through the inner self. Now we come down to this one, the real purpose of what I want to talk about here. Who? Who is this character? You want to have your reader identify with all your characters to some extent. Let me tell you a little story. When I first started out my writing, the very first book I ever published, called Refuge of Genesis Chronicles, it's no longer in print now, but I wrote it, and I gave a copy of it to my mother-in-law. Now, I spent a good amount of time developing the Noah, and also, and especially, the main character was not Noah. The main character was a young man by the name of Jared, Jared, the Noah's nephew. Now, Noah's a real character person, historical person. Jared, figment of my imagination, his nephew. Well, his nephew, like I said, was a primary character in the story. And so I thought that would be the character that my mother-in-law might like, or she might like Noah, or she might like Jared's wife. As I recall it, it was a different character. I believe it was one of the supporting characters in the story. But when I asked her who was her favorite character, I was surprised by her answer. Now, I had developed the process of that character in the book. I had not used the inner thoughts and stuff that, as I recall it, but I did bring that character alive. So it was a convincing character. And I did that through the eyes of Jared and Noah and other people, other characters. She identified herself with this one character. It was her favorite character in the whole story. And I could see it when she said it. And I think I asked her why, and I think she gave me a reason. I don't remember her answer nowadays. But she liked that character because of certain things that character said or did. And that is one of the things you got to keep in mind. Don't be so focused on your primary character that you forget your other characters. You're not going to use the thought processes for all your characters. That would be, I would think, a mistake. But you can still convey a lot about them through their body language and other things as they face life. So you want to bring them alive and make them as living as possible. And maybe even let the reader see them through the eyes and ears of your primary character. But back to the primary character. The importance of using all the senses that character has to convey who that person is. that enables the reader to identify with that character, whether it's a man or a woman, whichever your main character is. You want your reader to identify with that character. You see it in TV, you see it in other books, and so forth. The primary character. I was watching a TV show last night, and the character was a woman. And the star was playing, and it's a fictional character, right? A fictional story. Well, it looked like the character got killed. Yeah. I actually got emotional a little bit about it. I knew it was a fictional character. I knew that that if there was any more episodes, although there's been rumors that this character might be leaving the show, so that threw a little bit into it. But the thing was that for the moment, I thought the character had died and then she was brought back to life. But in any character, I felt emotion. The show literally have brought the emotional level in there. I felt the emotion. And that's one of the values of TV. You can see, hear, and feel. You can do some of that in your writing. And that is what you convey. You want the reader to be emotionally involved with your primary character, if at all possible. But it's okay if they're emotionally involved with some others. My mother-in-law enjoyed that one character, and it made her enjoy the whole story. And so it's your first one you want is your primary, but if you can have a supporting cast, get that following. Again, TV, your soap operas. There are people who identify with different soap opera characters. I remember a story told about a man who was played a character in one of the soap operas. Offset, away from the studio, he went into a restaurant or store or something like that, and this woman came up and literally lit into him about how he was treating such and such in the story. She literally identified with him as that character. That's carrying it a little too far, mind you, but you can see how powerful that is. Well, if it can work on TV, it can also work in your stories. A little bit more difficult, but you open up that character, especially your primary character, but even your supporting cast to some degree, you open them up to the reader, and they identify with them. And they can get very emotional about what happens. They can be sad. They can be happy. The reader, when they get emotionally involved with the character, also get involved, emotionally attached to the story itself. And it will help carry that story through. There will be times when that story, no matter how good you are, there will be times when that story might drop down in its intensity, its excitement, and so forth. It might actually be even a little boring, simply because there are peaks and valleys in a story. But if you can get that reader to be emotionally involved with one of your characters, and especially your primary character, you got a winning combination there. And that reader is not only going to be involved with this character throughout the whole story. The next time you write a book, and that person goes in the store to buy the book, and it says such and such wrote this, and might even mention that he or she was the author of such a book that you had just read as the reader, and you think, oh, I enjoyed that book. I think I'll get this book. It's a selling point. But you see how just doing all this can impact not only the story, but can impact beyond the story into future books. When they read your books and they like your books, like maybe just one, but then that means they go to two. If you can do the same thing in that story you did in the first one, or maybe it's the same character, if it's a continuing like a series. And so you get people to identify with your characters. And I hope that has been valuable to you. That is one of the things that as a teacher and as a coach, I work. My goal when I work with a student is for that student to get the very best out of their characters, their storyline, their plot, the whole thing, so that they put forth the best possible book they can put out. It will help sell that book. Well, you have a great day, and I hope this has proved very profitable for you. And I'll see, oh, by the way, before I go, over here, right down, right about there, you can subscribe to my channel, TR Independent Books. And when you do that, you should, I'm not going to guarantee anything, but you should be able to get every episode of Becoming a Published Author is Fun. You should be able to get it and have it in your channel. And then you can go and visit them as often as you want. Well, I hope that's been helpful to you, and I'll see you in the next episode. You have a great day.